Mark Rogers TV here, trying to preview each and every bowl game. We're getting to as many as we possibly can. We think we're going to get there, so please check out my YouTube channel and subscribe right there. We go to the Big 12 and bring in Taylor Midkiff from the LGG, so that's the Land Grant Gauntlet. So check out the guys there for the very best in Big 12 football coverage. Taylor, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. So a pretty fine season for the Big 12 thus far. During conference play, we got exciting and interesting, also very meaningful matchups each and every week. And then prior to that, of course, Oklahoma over Ohio State kind of put the conference in position to vie for a college football playoff, and the rest of the clubs fared pretty well out of conference as well. This is the next batch of games in which we can look at each and every Power 5 conference to see what we've got. So let's start in chronological order in regards to Big 12 play. We've got the Birmingham Bowl. So no sponsorship. This is what's crazy about the bowl games, is we get some new sponsorships and some crazy ones to read off that make the names about oh so long. But the Birmingham Bowl is pretty cut and dry. We know where that game's going to be played, with South Florida showing up for a second consecutive season with Quentin Flowers at quarterback. I got to check them out in their last few games, especially the conference championship game against Central Florida. And that was the best game of the conference championship weekend in my book. So South Florida shows up as a top 25 team, taking on Texas Tech, who after an off season gets back into bowl play. So your thoughts about the Red Raiders?
This is going to be an interesting matchup. Texas Tech was a little bit better on defense this year than they have been in past years, but actually regressed a little on offense. And so I'm going to be interested to see what this defense can do against, as you mentioned, Quentin Flowers, which for a lot of people is a name they might not know because he's playing in the American Athletic Conference. But Quentin Flowers is one of the most dynamic players in college football. He is a true dual threat quarterback, and I'm going to be really interested to see if Tech can slow him down at all. This is a really good USF team. Like you mentioned, they took UCF down to the wire in that game towards the end of the season. And so I feel probably least confident in Texas Tech among almost all of the Big 12 teams, because I just feel like this is one of the most powerful offenses in the country against a defense that is improved but still hasn't been outstanding. And if they don't have their offense to carry them like they normally do, then this is going to be a tough game for them. But keep an eye out on Quentin Flowers. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch him all season, he is dynamic and a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah, and Charlie Strong, who, of course, got the ouster at Texas, so Big 12 fans extremely familiar with him. Now at South Florida, they finish at 9-2 in the regular season before the loss to the Knights. And again, that was a back-and-forth affair with a lot of athletes on the field. So South Florida will bring all that Florida speed to this game against Texas Tech. I guess Texas Tech's going to bring the Texas speed, so it could be really wild and wide open. Despite the improvements that you mentioned with the Red Raiders, it was kind of shocking to a lot of college football fans who didn't know the personnel but checked out the Texas Tech scores week to week, because we thought, okay, this game, this is a 55-52 game, and then it didn't turn out to be that way, and the scores were very moderate for Cliff Kingsbury and company. Quentin Flowers with 31 total touchdowns this year. He gained 1,000 on the yard, 1,000 of his yards on the ground, and 2,600 through the air. So he's a handful to deal with. South Florida taking on Texas Tech. And even though if you look at the Bulls' schedule, you're going to see an extremely weak schedule outside of conference, so not a lot of Power 5 football for these guys this year. They will not be intimidated by Texas Tech, obviously, with the Central Florida game behind them and faring very well. But even in their past few years, matching up against a lot of Power 5 teams outside of conference for the Bulls.